For the first time in more than half a century, there are no limits on the world's two largest nuclear arsenals. The New START treaty between the United States and Russia expired today, and I don't think most people understand what that actually means.
Wait, we just don't have a nuclear treaty anymore? I thought those were kind of important.
They were. They are. New START was the last one standing. Signed in 2010 by Obama and Medvedev, it capped each side at 1,550 deployed strategic warheads and 700 missiles and bombers. It required regular inspections, regular data exchanges, verification, trust, but verify. That entire framework gone as of today.
And we're talking about two countries that control what percentage of the world's nuclear weapons?
Over 80%. Russia and the United States have more than 10,000 nuclear warheads between them. The UN Secretary-General called this a grave moment for international peace and security. He said the risk of a nuclear weapon being used is the highest it's been in decades.
So, how did we get here? Did negotiations just fall apart?
Kind of, but also not really. Putin actually proposed extending the treaty's limits for another year back in September. He said letting it expire would be destabilizing. Trump? He ignored the offer. The White House position is that any new deal needs to include China.
And I'm guessing China said no.
Emphatic no. Beijing's foreign ministry said China's arsenal isn't on the same scale as the US and Russia, which is true. They have maybe 550 strategic nuclear launchers compared to 800 each for the bigger powers. China says they won't participate in disarmament negotiations at the current stage. So Trump is demanding something he knows he won't get, while the actual existing treaty just dies.
Is there any good news here?
A sliver. The US and Russia agreed today to restart military-to-military dialogue. Senior officials met in Abu Dhabi. That communication channel was cut off in 2021. So even as the treaty dies, they're at least talking again. And Axios is reporting the two sides are close to a deal to voluntarily observe the treaty limits for now, even without a legal framework. But nothing is signed.
Arms control advocates must be losing their minds right now.
Daryl Kimball from the Arms Control Association called it exactly what it is. If Trump decides to build up the US arsenal, Russia follows suit, and China accelerates to keep up. A three-way nuclear arms build-up. The Pope called on both sides to do everything possible to avert a new arms race. Barack Obama posted that letting this expire could spark another arms race that makes the world less safe. Meanwhile, in domestic news that sounds less dramatic but will affect millions of people, the Trump administration finalized a rule today that strips job protections from up to 50,000 federal employees.
50,000 people just lost job security?
Not yet fired, but now they can be. This is Schedule F, something Trump tried during his first term and never finished. The Office of Personnel Management released the final rule today. It's the biggest change to civil service rules in over a century. These are career employees, not political appointees, who work on policy. Under the new classification called Schedule Policy Career, the president can now fire or discipline them much more easily.
What's the administration's argument for this?
OPM Director Scott Cooper said, quote, "You can't run an organization if people are refusing to actually carry out the lawful objectives and orders of the administration. The framing is that these are bureaucrats who undermine the president's priorities. The counter-argument is that you're gutting the professional civil service and making government jobs political loyalty tests."
Are there any checks on this?
Courts, federal worker unions and groups like Democracy Forward already sued back in January. That litigation was paused while the rule was being finalized. Now it resumes. They're calling it unlawful and promise to use every legal tool available. Oh, and one more thing. The rule also changes whistleblower protections. Agencies will now investigate their own retaliation claims instead of the Independent Office of Special Counsel.
So, if your agency retaliates against you for blowing the whistle, that same agency investigates whether they did anything wrong?
That's the new system. The administration says agency officials will be required to be unbiased. We'll see how that works in practice. All right, let's talk redistricting, because there was a major Supreme Court decision yesterday.
This is about California, right?
Yes. The Supreme Court allowed California to use a new congressional map that puts 5 Republican-held seats in play. No dissents, no explanation. Just done.
Can you give me the context? Why did California redraw its map mid-decade?
Tit for tat. Trump pushed Texas to redraw its maps to benefit Republicans, which they did. Gavin Newsom responded by putting a new map on the California ballot, and 64% of voters approved it in November. Republicans sued, claiming one district was redrawn based on race, not politics. They pointed to the map maker, Paul Mitchell, who said publicly he wanted to ensure that Latino districts were bolstered.
That sounds like a strong argument.
Except the Supreme Court literally just rejected an identical argument against Texas. Like, weeks ago, civil rights groups tried to block Texas's map using similar racial gerrymandering claims, and the court said no. Justice Alito even wrote that both maps, Texas and California, were motivated by partisan advantage, pure and simple. Same standard, same outcome. California gets its map too.
So the redistricting arms race continues.
Until someone passes federal reform, yes. Trump started it to protect his House majority. Now both sides are playing the game. Quick space update. NASA's Artemis II mission is delayed again.
This is the moon mission, right? The first crewed flight since Apollo?
Exactly. 4 astronauts were supposed to launch as early as February 8th, flying around the far side of the moon and potentially setting a record for the farthest humans have ever traveled from Earth. Now they're looking at March 6th. At the earliest.
What happened?
Hydrogen leaks. During the wet dress rehearsal, which is basically a full countdown simulation with the rocket fueled up, cold weather delayed the start. Then they hit leak issues in the connection between the rocket and the launch platform. These leaks haunted them before the Artemis I mission 2. Liquid hydrogen is notoriously fickle because the molecules are so tiny they escape through the smallest gaps.
Is this a major setback?
NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman framed it as exactly what rehearsals are for, finding problems before you put astronauts on top of the thing. We fully anticipated encountering challenges, he said. The astronauts, Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen, have been released from quarantine. They'll go back into isolation about 2 weeks before the new launch date. And finally, one piece of market news that actually matters. Eli Lilly is now worth over $1 trillion.
The weight loss drug company?
Exactly. Mounjaro and Zepbound. Their stock jumped 10% yesterday after a blockbuster earnings report. Fourth quarter revenue up 43% to $19 billion. Mounjaro sales up 110%. Zepbound up 123%.
Those are insane growth numbers for a pharmaceutical company.
It's the GLP-1 gold rush. These drugs were originally for diabetes, but have become the biggest thing in weight loss. Zepbound now has about 70% of new prescriptions in the branded obesity market. Eli Lilly also cut a deal with the government in November to make these available at reduced cost to Medicare beneficiaries, which will only drive more demand.
And their forecast?
25% revenue growth in 2026 to between $80 and $83 billion. Earnings per share up about 40%. This company is on an absolute tear, and they can't manufacture the stuff fast enough. So, there's your Thursday. The nuclear ceiling is gone. 50,000 federal workers are in Trump's crosshairs. California gets to redraw its maps. NASA needs another month. And weight loss drugs are minting trillionaires. The world keeps spinning, faster every day.
We'll see you tomorrow.